Hello everyone, it's Will, and welcome to this grammar workshop video on the present tense. This is video number 2 of 3 on the tenses. Last time I did the past tense, today I'll do the present tense, and next time I'll take a look at the future tense with you. For now, let's take a look at the present tense. And the present tense can be very simple in English to use and understand, but of course there are some more complex rules and uses of it that make it a very interesting part of the language. Today we'll take a look at all the different forms of the present tense and the various ways of using it naturally. Let's get started. Starting off with this simple present, nice and simple. Now the simple present is pretty easy to construct as it uses just one word, the verb, in its base form, and either an S or an ES on the end for the third person singular other than the verb to be. So we can use the simple present to refer to actions of habit. For example, I take the bus to work every day. And again, it's formed simply with the one verb, the verb to take, in its base form, take. I do this every day. It's an action of habit. I take the bus to work every day. He rides the train to work every day. She teaches for a living. Again, the verb to teach. And then the third person singular, we put es on the end, teaches. She teaches for a living. If you do something for a job, it's also an action of habit. You can also use the simple present to refer to a current state. You are happy this morning, or form the contraction, you're happy this morning. You know, maybe you share a house with a friend, you see them in the morning and you say, wow, you're happy this morning. It's a current state that they're in. And as I mentioned, the verb to be doesn't do the same S or ES on the end. Instead, it's you, are, he is, he or she is. Also, they know how to do it. Knowing something is also a state. Do you think they'll be all right? Yes, they know how to do it. So knowing is a state. Lastly, it's also interesting to mention that the simple present is great for quoting someone or something. For example, the label says to take 2 pills. So presumably we're reading a little, bottle of pills. The label says to take 2 pills. And we should always read the label on medication. What about quoting someone? He says he'll be ready in a minute. He says that. So where is he? Is he going to be ready in a minute? Yeah, he says he'll be ready in a minute. It's something he says right now, and I am quoting him. Taking a quick look at what it says down here at the bottom. Sometimes the simple present can also be used to refer to the future. We'll take a look at that in my next workshop, using the present in the future. Let's move on and we'll take a look at the present progressive, also referred to as the present continuous, another form of the present tense. And it is a very common form of the present tense in modern English. How do we make this? Well, it's formed by combining the verb to be with the present participle of the main verb ending in ing. Be and ing. It can be used to describe something happening right now. That car is going really fast. So the verb to be, in this case the car is, the verb to go in the present participle with ing, going. That car is going really fast. That man is walking very slowly. We can also use the present progressive to describe something happening now, but not where we are, somewhere else. For example, he is living in Singapore at the moment. Yeah, he's living in Singapore at the moment. He's working for a bank over there. So it's not here, it's somewhere else. And again, the verb to be and the verb live with ing, living. Lastly, it can also be used with the word always to mean often. My parents are always telling me to tidy my room. So the verb to be here, in this case, my parents are, always meaning often, so they often tell me to tidy my room, and the verb to tell with the ing present participle ending. And yes, when I was a kid, my parents always told me to tidy my room. In the present tense, my parents are always telling me this. It's something they often do. My boss is always telling me to get to work on time, that kind of thing. We do also have another note here, similar to the previous slide, and just like the previous slide, the present progressive can also be used to refer to the future. And again, we'll take a look at that in my next workshop video that will be all about the future tense. Moving on from here then, speaking of different tenses, we're actually going to take a quick minute to look at the past tense being used in the present, two different forms of the past tense. I did mention this in my previous workshop and we'll take a look at it now. Indeed, I mentioned in my past tense workshop that the simple past was or did something, and the past progressive was or were doing something can be used to refer to the present. We'll take a look at some very common examples now. I wanted to speak to you, which actually means I want to speak to you now. Very common. I wanted to speak to you. Do you have a moment? I wanted to speak to you. It means I want to speak to you now. I was hoping to speak to you. Same thing. I'd like to speak to you now. I want to speak to you now. I was hoping in the past tense, actually used to refer to the present. I thought, again, past participle of think, thought. I thought we could go out for dinner, which actually means I want us to go out for dinner. I want currently to do it. I was thinking about ordering takeout. I want to order takeout. This is an interesting one as well, quite a common phrase when we're traveling or we're somewhere nice. We can say to our friends, our loved ones, I wish you were here. Were in the past tense actually means I want you to be here right now. And lastly, if he was here, he would love this. If he was here, was in the past tense actually means he likes this kind of thing, but he is not here. So in present tense again, can be a little confusing. It is a bit tough for some people to understand. But once you get the hang of when we use these and what we actually mean by them, it becomes a lot easier. For a bit of context, by the way, things like I wanted to speak to you and I was hoping to speak to you are very common in business English, like you want to speak to a colleague or your boss or a client maybe. And things like I thought we could, I was thinking about, very common in daily English, of course. So that's the past tense used in the present. Let's come back to another form of the present tense specifically. This time it's the present perfect. And the present perfect is a bit of a strange version of the present tense. It's actually very similar in form, but not in function, to the simple past tense. How do we make this? Well, it's formed with the present tense of have, so either have or has, and the past participle of the main verb. It's worth mentioning that the present perfect often acts as a bridge between the past and the present. It bridges those two things, brings them together. Specifically, it kind of brings the past up to the present. Let's look at some examples here to help us out. I have had this book since I was 3. So we've got the present tense of have, I have in this case. The past tense, the past participle of the main verb, in this case, It's also the verb to have, but now it's had. I have had. And we're also referring to when the past was. What time in the past we're talking about. When I was 3 years old, way back in the past. I've had this book since then, and I still have it now. She has lived there since she was a little girl. So the past was when she was a little girl. We're bringing it up to the present because she still lives there now. She has lived there. So present tense of have, in this case, she has. I have, you have, he or she has. The past tense of the verb to live, lived. She has lived there since she was a little girl. They have owned that car for 30 years. In this case, the time in the past was 30 years ago. I was going to mention, we can talk about it now, that we can make contractions with these verbs, with the verb to have. We've known him since we were kids. She's been on her bike for 10 minutes. And again, the past, when we were kids in the past, up till now, obviously we're probably not kids. And for this sentence, the past was just 10 minutes ago, which shows you that it can be the very recent past. So she got on her bike 10 minutes ago, she's still on it now. Very important to mention that in all of the above sentences, the states, the things that are happening, are unfinished. So, for example, I still have that book, she still lives there, they still own that car, we still know him, and she's still on her bike. These things are still ongoing. Very important. On the left, some more important information about the present perfect. We can also use it to talk about experience. I've lived in 5 different countries. That's something I have experienced. Have you ever seen that movie? And she's won 7 awards for her songs. It's not important when these things happened. The focus is on the action or the state. And importantly then, we cannot say when we had the experience. We can't actually say it with this form. For example, I have been to Brisbane in 2017. Can't say that. Let's cross it out. Can't say it. If you want to refer to the specific time, 2017, we need this form instead. The simple past. I went to Brisbane in 2017. If you do want to say I've been to Brisbane, then we can't use the time, the specific time when it happened. We just say it simply, I have been to Brisbane. It's something I have experienced. Lots to think about, but when you remind yourself of these rules and the forms, it really does become a lot simpler, I think. Moving on from here, we've got the last one. It's the present perfect progressive. The 3 Ps, present perfect progressive. This is used for ongoing action in the past that continues right up to the present or has recently finished. How do we make this? Well, it's made with the present tense of have. So again, have or has. Nice and simple. The past participle of be. So been, again, nice and simple. And the present participle of the main verb with the ending ing. Let's take a look at some example sentences. I have been cleaning all morning. So present tense of have, the past tense of be, so been, and the verb to clean in the present participle with the ing ending, cleaning. I have been cleaning all morning. And of course, again, we could use contractions. I've been cleaning all morning. So when we're saying this now in the present, we know that it was ongoing in the past. So the morning started a while ago. We were cleaning all through that morning in the past, right up till now in the present. The other one, he looks angry. I guess he's been arguing with his brother. In this case, we are making the contraction from he has to he's. He's been arguing with his brother. Now with this one, we can maybe guess that either it's still ongoing, they're still arguing, or it's recently finished. They stopped arguing, but very recently. The present perfect progressive can also be used when stating for how long or since when something is the case. Let's look at some examples. They've been working here since the mid-90s. So in this case, it's since when this thing has been happening, or since when it was the case. In this point, it's since the mid-90s up till now. That's how long they've been working here since then. How long have you been waiting here? Have you been waiting? And they've been talking about getting married for 2 years now. So again, this one is all about how long something has been the case of how long they've been talking about getting married, 2 years. We've also got an important box of information on the left. The present perfect progressive can also connect events to the present. So, connecting past events to the present, I should say. Sometimes it refers to unfinished actions. I've been painting the house all summer. I've been painting, so it's in the past, connecting it to the present, but we're not finished yet. The same is true of the other sentence here. I've been reading that book you recommended. I have been. I've been reading that book you recommended. Again, it's been happening in the past, up to the present, and it's still going on. It's not finished. I'm still reading that book. Sometimes it does actually refer to finished actions, not unfinished, but they're actually finished actions. For example, I've painted the bedroom red. I have painted it. It's done. I've read that book you recommended. Again, I've done it. I've finished reading it. Pretty simple, I hope. Let's finish up with our conclusion. So, as we can see from this workshop, the present tense is not limited only to the definitive current moment. It also helps us to connect the past to the present and allows us to refer to experience as well as imply a state and finished and unfinished action. So quite a lot going on with the present tense. It may seem complicated, but as I mentioned, it's pretty easy once you get the hang of it. So be sure to practice. Remind yourselves of the different forms of the present tense, when they're used, and how we make them, which verbs and verb endings we use. Once you do that, it should become pretty straightforward. So all it leaves for me to say is thank you so much for watching. Thanks for your time, and good luck working on your tenses. Speaking of which, be sure to join me next time for my workshop on the future tense, the last one that we will do on our tenses. Thanks again, and see you all soon. Take care, everybody. Goodbye for now.